Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday night edition of the Q&A here on the Chiefs Digest YouTube channel. Appreciate everybody who's able to join us tonight. I know we've already got some questions in the queue. Yes, indeed. Hooray, hooray, Luttrell. It is Q&A day. Thank you for the birthday wishes. You are much too kind. That will be even further motivation that if I can find a way to make this a lightning round edition. Not gonna lie, I've got some nothing but bundt cakes, at least one nothing but bundt cakes waiting for me for dessert. So that's my motivation for doing a lightning round tonight and getting through a little bit quicker. And maybe they'll leave us time to do an episode on Thursday, which wasn't able to get to last week. Hey, I wish I could explain what went wrong last night for the Chiefs in that 31-28 loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Very unusual game to me. You look at all of the numbers in this game. I think the Chiefs offense played well enough to win. I think the Chiefs defense played well enough to win. Fairly convincing performances on both sides of the football. Penalties were absolutely a problem, and special teams penalties in particular. Of the Chiefs' 13 penalties, 4 of them were on special teams, costing them a total of 78 yards of field position. When you've got about 120, I think, yards of difference, and a little bit greater than that, maybe, and just the difference between these two teams in yards from scrimmage. And then you factor in the Chiefs' pretty significant deficit on the penalty yards too. They gave away a lot there. But when you factor in the loss of field position on special teams, I mean, it really negates the advantage that you had on yards from scrimmage. And certainly the pick six at the goal line, that's a 14-point swing. The Chiefs worked their way down. They were clearly knocking on the door of the end zone. That is a play that, once again, the Chiefs probably get it in the end zone 99 times out of 100, it seems like, in that position, especially as the way that they were playing on Monday night. Doesn't work out. Jacksonville has a couple of drives that required some good fortune, and they got it. So I wish I had a good explanation for why the Chiefs lost that game, other than penalties, discipline, just bad breaks. I mean, I if I could fault the Chiefs for having some bad plays, bad performances, I would, but I think that in some cases it was just some bad misfortune. Jalen Watson gets kind of caught up in the turf, slides, falls down, gets called for a pass interference. That's just, if he doesn't slip, he doesn't get called for PI there. If Drew Trinkle and Nick Bolton aren't both in the area, Nick Bolton probably intercepts that pass that was deflected by Trent McDuffie. Just bad fortune that you had a couple of guys in the area going for the interception. Even the play with Trevor Lawrence falling down, which, if we get some questions about this tonight, and I understand, there may be some people who don't agree with my interpretation of it. I'm not as down on Chris Jones as some people are. Nick and I are both of the philosophy that Chris, with his performance during the night, owning the inside of that offensive line, had been driving back the right guard all night long. The right guard steps on Trevor Lawrence's foot and causes him to go to the ground. I'm still not entirely sure when Chris realized that the quarterback was on the ground. But at the same time, he was also in a position to make sure that Trevor Lawrence wasn't going to scramble up the middle. And, remember back in week 1, Chris drew a lot of criticism for maybe freelancing a little bit, giving up contain on the outside, going after Justin Herbert in the pocket, and ending up giving up a big running play for the first down that iced the game. Not the identical situation, but a similar type situation there that, hey, if Chris Jones abandons his position, very easily could have been a different gain, or at least a touchdown in a different way for Trevor Lawrence. I mean, the Chiefs, no, without that, were just the victims of some bad luck. I always say in games like this, these close games, there's usually about 5 plays that decide it, that are 50-50 plays. And whomever wins those 50-50 plays usually wins the game. Well, the 50-50 plays went almost the entirely way that the Jacksonville Jaguars on Monday night. I don't know if there was a 50-50 play that really went the Chiefs' favor. And when you've got that many bad breaks going your way, when you give up a pick six, when you give up a touchdown to a quarterback that's laying on the ground, those are hard victories to earn. So I suppose when you consider just the individual aesthetics of that game and you consider the intangibles of that game, it makes a lot more sense. Chiefs going into a team that's now 4-1 on the road into their building in a place where it's been a long time since Jacksonville played on a Monday night game and had a primetime game. That was a big deal for them. Really biggest game that they've had in any time since then would have been the playoff game, wild card game against the Chargers. That was a big deal for Duval, and they showed up. They helped their team. Jacksonville was ready. They got it done. So at the end of the day, you have to tip your cap to Jacksonville for making the plays. They got the game. They put it away. They made the plays. They got things done. Won the ball game. Did the Chiefs give it away? I think in a lot of ways that they did. I mean, the Chiefs certainly could have won that game. It was within their grasp. They just needed to make a few plays and didn't make them. So uh, I think obviously a very frustrating outcome, and I'm interested to see where all of you are coming down on it. So I'm going to stop blathering and go into the auto chats and super chats. And Luttrell, the very first one is just a birthday card. Oh yeah, Luttrell, you are the best. That is incredibly kind of you. Very kind you, and there's so many others who have been regular contributors and joining in on the show from the very beginning. I am truly grateful here on my birthday, truly grateful for all of you being here. That is very kind of you, Luttrell, and I'll try and put that to good use for some birthday gifts. So I truly appreciate that. Chris, is it time to admit that the 2025 Chiefs are an average to even below average team? I mean, I'm still under the philosophy that any team that has a healthy Patrick Mahomes, uh, I mean, I think the floor is 10 or 11 wins. I mean, I really really want to say it's 11 wins. Maybe we'll get to a point where 10 is the number. But and again, this is it is a definitely your mileage may vary situation, because right now you look at this and hey, I can twist the story to say, look, the Chiefs have 3 losses by 1 score to 3 teams that have a combined record of 11-4. Eagles are 4-1. Jacksonville's now 4-1. Chargers are 3-2. 2 of those losses are on the road. One in a really tough environment in Brazil that was definitely built against the road team. Going to Jacksonville was a really difficult environment. I mean, it's very easy to explain why the Chiefs are 2-3 at this spot, and why the 3 games that they lost. They've also got 2 games against teams that are right now not looking like playoff teams, and those were convincing wins. They put those away. They were never close. They were not 1-score games. They were clear-cut victories. Uh, so what are the Chiefs after 5 games? I mean, are they a playoff team? Hey, you might say to yourself that if you're beating everybody else and you're losing so closely to playoff teams, and 2 of those games are on the road, hey, maybe you're on the cusp, but maybe you are in, that wild card territory, maybe, outside of a division champ. I mean, you'd say right now that they're not in the lead in the division. They could have had, with the win last night, they could have been tied with the Chargers. They're still only 1 game back in the AFC West. So I'm not giving up on the division title. I think this team can absolutely be there. But if you want to say right now, okay, they're a wild card team. They're a 500-ish team. Right now, they'd be out of the wild card, right out of the playoffs at 2-3 right now. But there's a lot more football to play. And I still think that they're going to get better when they get Rashee Rice. Their defense has been really good in at least 3 of the first 5 games. I don't think that even the games against Jacksonville and the game against the Chargers were terrible games. Remember, offense gave up 7 points to Jacksonville, so that's a 24-point effort. I mean, that's you score 28 points and your defense gives up 24 points. Most of the time, you should win those games. So there's no doubt the pick six was a pretty critical play in that ball game. So I'm not there. I understand if you want to make the argument, and I know there's a plenty of people who are saying that the Chiefs are an average team, that this isn't as good as Chiefs teams in the past. I'm just not ready to buy that argument yet. I still think that this team has got its best football ahead of it. I think Rashee Rice is going to make a difference when he comes back. Xavier Worthy can stay healthy is going to make a difference. If they figure out something in the backfield, whether it's deciding that Brashard Smith can play a little bit more running back, or they bring in someone else, they find that Elijah Mitchell can give them a jolt out of the backfield. If there's another player, a trade that they can bring in to give them a jolt in the backfield, I think they'll be a little better than they are right now. And I don't know that they're really an average team. I mean, I think this is still an above average team. It's an above average team that's played a really difficult schedule. Jacksonville is the one team that you would say, wait a minute, that's not a difficult team. They're 4-1. I mean, they've got some good wins. They've gone on the road to San Francisco. That's a good win. It's not a terrible team. I mean, I may not be the world's biggest fan of Trevor Lawrence. I may think that he is usually going to be the guy that lets you down in key moments. I do have some questions about the Chiefs just not going after Trevor Lawrence as much as they've gone after some other quarterbacks, put the pressure on him to try and create mistakes. But hey, Steve Spagnuolo, Andy Reid, those guys have forgotten a lot more about football than I'll ever know. So I'm usually going to defer to them to believing that they made the decisions that they think are going to be best for them in the long term. And hey, if Andy Reid's under the philosophy that he thinks he might see Jacksonville again down the road and didn't want to put his best stuff out there, I think we've seen that before too, and that's usually a good choice for Andy Reid. So I have a hard time calling this team below average. I mean, I certainly think that it's an above average team, Chris. And for Nick, unfortunately not going to be able to join us tonight. I'm sorry, Nick had other commitments. Can you tell us how you really feel about the ESPN announcing crew? I did talk to him a little bit about this today, and I think we were kind of similar mindsets. It's, so I'm not going to put these words directly in the Nick's mouth, but this is kind of at least my mindset on it. On the one hand, crews that come in, and this was one thing that Nick and I did talk about specifically today. Sometimes you're at the mercy of your spotters, and I do think that the spotters let down both Joe Buck and Troy Aikman last night, because I'm not sure they always gave them completely accurate information, whether or not there was a flag on the field, what the line of scrimmage was going to be, what the penalty was, what the penalty yardage was going to be. There were some little tiny mistakes. And then too, once again, I mean, even as much as the Chiefs are on national TV, and sometimes these crews do see them in multiple games, there's still a 30,000 foot view to it. So these crews don't necessarily know the teams as well as hardcore fans do. And they're going to make mistakes. I mean, they're going to mispronounce players' names. They're going to overinflate players' performances. They might even underrate some players' performances. And in some of that, honestly, I mean, there might be a directive to that. Maybe they're told that in the production meeting because some coaches want them to believe a certain thing or say something a certain way. Maybe they just like I said, just have the 30,000 foot view. I think the one that was stuck out to me was like Troy Aikman saying that Andy Hick's a great coach because he's been with Andy Reid since 2013. It's not necessarily correlation causation there. So, but then again, Troy Aikman's not bleeding, week to week and following what's going on in Kansas City on the offensive line. So he may have a different viewpoint. He also maybe had somebody in a production meeting tell him, "Hey, make sure you talk about how great a job Andy Heck's doing." Maybe you're trying to get him another job. So, um, yeah, I wish Nick was here so he could give his unvarnished rant on the subject, but I don't think it was their finest performance last night. I think those guys have done better broadcasts. So let's see, where are we going to go next with the questions? AC 30-ish. Is there a way to fix the D line? Chris Jones' cap hit is $44 million next year, and he's just not the same player. Do you think next year is his last for the Chiefs? They need to rebuild the D line. And I mean, it's certainly possible. Even then, you could rework that contract a little bit to get the number down if needed. If you do that, you're probably kicking some numbers downstream that you've now guaranteed yourself to that you wouldn't have had normally. Looking at Chris's exact numbers right now and seeing how you could, what's guaranteed and how maybe you could move some of that money around a little bit, because the out in his contract is after 26. He does have 2 other years after that. But you would get out of after 2026, would make it a 3-year contract, 95.3 million. He would have 19.5 million in dead cap over the next 2 seasons. If you made him in 27 a June 1 cut, that would at least allow you to spread that over a couple of seasons. But 19.5 million cap hit's a pretty big number. And Chris actually would have a lower cap number, 38.1 million in 2027, than you would have next year. If you did, renegotiate Chris's deal, restructure it to bring down that 44.8 number, you would actually be adding more dead money into the future years. So, and those would be seasons 33 and 34. So might not be what you want to do. You may want to keep Chris at that 44 number. Definitely not really a possibility. I mean, Chris is worth more to keep than the cut next year. And again, I mean, I just don't see a huge drop off in comparison as far as what Chris's performance has been. And then 2, I still see a pretty big gap between Chris Jones and the next best defensive tackle on this team. I mean, Omar Norman-Lott's the first guy that the Chiefs have really drafted with the intention of saying, hey, this guy is a potential Chris Jones replacement. So you've got a guy there now that you can groom to maybe take over for Chris Jones. Not going to be necessarily as good as Chris Jones. Maybe he will. We'll see. I mean, it's always possible. Maybe he ends up being better. Maybe they take another shot on the defensive line and come up with somebody else who's just as good or better than Chris Jones. I mean, it can also be worse than Chris Jones. You don't know what's going to happen. And that's really the only just disappointing thing to me is that the Chiefs have not invested a lot in the interior defensive tackle position in recent years. Omar Norman-Lott was the pick, this year. I think really the last time I think Keandre Coburn was the last defensive tackle that they selected. They haven't put a ton of money in trying to bring in free agents on the defensive line. They've gone with pretty affordable options over the years and with players who've been around and journeyman a little bit, guys who aren't just like going to be giving them and making significant plays. And, and I had this conversation today with Seren Petro over on 810, and you want to listen to that on their podcast, you can get into it and kind of see both our sides there. But I still think that and believe that even at Chris Jones at his age and what he's doing, he's still one of the best defensive tackles in the league. you're not going to replace him and get somebody who's significantly better. Chances are the next guy who replaces Chris Jones is going to be significantly worse. And I'm not. I would like to talk to Steve Spagnuolo. I would like to talk to even Joe Cullen, who I don't think we're going to get to see until next week, unfortunately. Like to talk to Chris Jones. He is scheduled to be on the podium on Thursday, so we will see what he has to say about that final play. But I think there's a lot of factors that go into it, and I mean, let's face it, Chris Jones, his push on the defensive line all night long, his push on the right guard, was the guy who stepped on Carson Steele's Trevor Lawrence's foot and knocked him to the ground. So, I mean, Chris Jones made an impact in that game on a lot of plays. Are there plays where it sometimes looks like he's take plays off? Yeah. Are those plays where he's actually taking off? I don't know. He may have an assignment that maybe in his case, the assignment was if you're not able to penetrate and get into the defensive backfield to affect Lawrence, then drop back, make sure that Lawrence doesn't scramble. And maybe that was his assignment. I don't know. But I know that more often than not, Chris Jones has a positive impact on this team. And if that's his worst snap of the season, I got no problem with that. So Chris has been too good of a player for this team for too long. He still has good football ahead of him. I know that he had a reputation coming out of college that he takes off plays. The reality of it is that he has not taken off plays for the majority of his career. It hasn't been an issue. If he's making the business decisions in his 30s about not expending energy that he doesn't have to expend on hopeless causes, on plays that he can't make, I'm not necessarily going to fault him on that either. So I'm really just taking a wait and see. I want more information. I'd like to know what some of the coaches and players in particular say about that situation. I can tell you this. I mean, Chris Jones is one of the most respected guys in that locker room. So even if that was his worst play of the season, he is not going to lose the respect of anybody in that locker room. So Cole, happy birthday wishes. Thank you very much. And Dr. Who, you were much too kind, especially noting that only turned 30 once. Yeah. I think I've turned 30 a few more times, but Joy, Chris, thank you. I truly appreciate that. And Cole, you brought up something that Nick has been discussing the last couple of days too, which is that maybe Chris just still isn't himself because he's still mourning his aunt. Just a thought. Yeah, I mean, you know what? Players do have things that happen in their lives off the field that affect them. And the more we've heard about Chris and his aunt, I mean, she passed away while watching his game against the Giants, and that had to take an emotional toll. And Chris, when he talked about it this week, finally, it was a pretty emotional press conference. You could tell that it was something that he wasn't entirely comfortable talking about, and it was deeply effective, impacting him. So, hey, if he has given and put a lot of his heart and his energy out on the field in the last couple of weeks in these last two games with a lot on his mind, once again, I'm willing to give him a free pass because this guy has done a lot for this team over the years. And I don't think his play on that particular snap was the difference in the game for the Chiefs. I thought other guys had a chance to make a play, and who knows? Once again, if Chris Jones doesn't get the penetration against the right guard and force him to step on the foot of Trevor Lawrence, maybe the play doesn't ever happen to begin with. Doctor Who, when I got a fast car Rice returns, will he be the magic wand they need to open up the Chiefs offense? I don't know about the magic wand, but maybe I guess we're taking the car metaphor a little bit too far here, but can he help this offense find another gear? Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that. Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy are two guys on this team who do things that nobody else can do. Hey, Tyquan Thornton, I think, is a really talented receiver. He's a really speedy guy. Can he do some of the things that Xavier Worthy does? No, I don't think that he can. Juju Smith-Schuster is an accomplished receiver. He can't do some of the things that both of those guys can do. Same thing with Hollywood. I mean, and remember too, one of the strengths of Rashee Rice is his ability to run through tackles. He is a big, strong receiver. He has got that ability to just run through guys, like the running back that he once was. I mean, he's a little bit the opposite of Brashard Smith. Rashee was a running back that they turned into a wide receiver. Brashard Smith is a wide receiver that's getting turned into a running back. Um, the benefit that gives you on both those guys, on the one hand, Rashee Rice runs like a running back when he's got the football, which means he runs with a lot of power. He can break tackles. You can throw short passes to Rashee Rice, and it's almost like just getting a running back out on the edge. So, yeah, he's going to be able to do some things that other guys can't do. Brashard Smith's the other side of the coin. I mean, you're going to be able to throw him the ball out of the backfield, and he's going to be able to make plays because he's got a skill set of catching the ball that a lot of guys at that spot don't already have. I would still love to see Brashard Smith get the ball more in pure run situations out of the backfield, but I understand why the Chiefs are being a little hesitant about bringing him along slowly. So, but hey, Rice, can he add another gear to this offense? Absolutely. I mean, would it help if Xavier Worthy is also healthy and out there at the same time? 100%. I mean, you can't, it's not going to be a situation where you can get Rashee Rice back, and if you're missing Xavier Worthy, that you're getting the same impact. I mean, this is a multiplier effect. It's great that you get Xavier Worthy back. You can do a lot of things, but you add on Rashee Rice on top of that, it's just even more astronomical. And the Chiefs, their offense the other night, I think averaged over 7 yards a play. You average over 7 yards a play, you're going to win most football games. And you bring in Rashee Rice, you maybe have the potential to average more yards per play than that. Alex, have Chiefs fans become late stage Patriot fans? I'm not gonna throw Chiefs fans into that pool yet. I think Alex, I'm gonna give Chiefs fans the benefit of the doubt that they're still pretty good fans. I don't think that they turn on their team as much as maybe. And maybe it's just the outsider's point of view. I always saw Patriots fans during their run as being a little holier than thou. I don't think that Chiefs fans are that bad. But I mean, can you get a little spoiled? Can you get a little greedy and say to yourself things like, hey, wait a minute, you know what? We don't need Chris Jones. Let's chase him out of here and get somebody else. Don't need Harrison Butker. Chase him out of here. Go get somebody else. It's a business. I mean, you've committed to these guys. You are stuck with these guys. You've got to figure out a way to make it work. So, to me, turning on Chris Jones doesn't really do you much. I mean, obviously, the only thing it's done really so far is convince Chris to jump off of social media and not be on Twitter anymore. Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. There's a lot of players who'll say once they get off social media and once they get off Twitter that their mindset improves. So maybe that'll be a case here. But I don't think Alex, I don't think that Chiefs fans are that bad. Do Chiefs fans have moments? Yes, there's no doubt that Chiefs fans have moments, but I don't think that you're Patriots fans quite yet. So, Chris, you want to give birthday day punches? And no, I don't need punches, man. That's not what we're not about that. I appreciate the happy birthday message, but we're not punching me here. I do have a little bit of allergies, so my voice sounds a little bit different, and it could sound a little bit better, deeper at times today. Might sound a little bit whinier too, so I apologize. How that affects you going forward. Doctor Who, can we expect Nick to show up at some point and burst out of a giant cake? I don't think that's going to happen, Doctor Who. So don't get too excited there. I see Jaguar, Matt, we will gift you a great win this Sunday against the Lions. Happy birthday. I think there's a donut there. Is it a donut or a cake? Either way, I like that. I like that, Jaguar. Appreciate it. Hey, I think everybody would love a Chiefs win. It makes everybody in Kansas City a little bit happier. So, um, and if you haven't, for Stuart's sake, if you have not checked out 41 is the mic this week, Nick had some pretty good rants on there last night. So if you need your rant fix, go check out Nick and make sure you wait until the end, because I think his best rants were at the very end when I thought the show was done and was just like, hey, Nick, any final thoughts? And Nick has like 5 more minutes of rants. So you definitely got to wait around for that at the very, very end. Chris, thank you for the happy birthday messages. You are all much too kind. Yeah, Brian, I guess I should have gone to get my free Big Mac today. I did not do that. Got to do that in Kansas City. If you get the sacks, you can go get your free Big Mac. I have not done that in a long time. Brian, does the defense look offensive to you? I think I see where you're going there. I mean, once again, you look at the individual numbers, and the Chiefs defense did a pretty good job. I mean, they got victimized by a couple of fouls and flags that extended some Jacksonville drives that you would prefer not to see. But I didn't have a lot of problems with the defense. I mean, once again, your defense gives up 24 points. That should be enough to win. Wasn't their best performance. There was a little bit of bend but don't break. They did get 2 turnovers in the game. I mean, there was a lot to like. I mean, once again, they dominated Jacksonville in the numbers for most of the game. So I don't have a lot of fault for the defense. And Brian, you also want to know, can the Chiefs fire who now? That would have been another rant that if Nick was here tonight, we would be, I'm sure, discussing would be Troy Aikman singing the praises of one Andy Heck as the offensive line coach. And you never know where that comes from. Could be just, hey, Troy Aikman knows that Andy Heck's been there for 13 years and thinks everything's great. Might not be everything's great. Brian, what happens to Cochran? And this is another thing. I mean, and I'll admit, this is a little bit of a tinfoil hat for me. And I saw that there was a lot of frustration on the sideline dealing with those 2 particular holding penalties. I'm not 100% sure that I thought either one of them were really clear-cut holding penalties. I think one of a couple of things could have happened, and maybe the 2 of these things, could have happened concurrently, which is that either Jacksonville saw there were some things on tape that they could take advantage of, that they could create some situations where they could maybe bait the Chiefs and bait Jack Cochran into some holding penalties or some plays that look like holding penalties. Because I thought in one of them for sure, the first one and the second one I thought was the same as well. Very similarities. It looked like the Jacksonville player that Cochran was blocking was going down while in contact with Cochran with a legal block. And when Cochran just kind of ushered him to the ground, that looked like holding to the officials. I'm still not 100% convinced it was of holding. I felt like the defender kind of gave themselves up on the play a little bit, and that led to the penalty. I wasn't, and like I said, I feel like I'm sounding like a Chiefs apologist, and that's not my intent whatsoever. This team does not need me to apologize for them for anything. I just felt like that there were some calls last night that I thought were pretty questionable. The illegal double team on Nico Remigio, very questionable. I felt like that was more of a case of 2 guys that were engaged in a block kind of running into Nico Remigio. I don't think that Nico looked like he was intending to initiate contact there, but it happens. I thought there were some other penalties, and again, that kind of fit into the same way. I mean, on Trevor Lawrence's touchdown, it looked like there might have been an illegal block against Charles Omenihu because the left guard came over and kind of just cleared him out, just absolutely pancaked him from the side, and that was going towards his own goal line. So that looked like an illegal block. But again, those aren't always going to get called. And if they are going to get called, it might be because you need to be going to the officials bill up before the game and saying, hey, wait a minute, this team does this kind of things. Watch out for them. And that's where my conspiracy theory comes in, is that I don't know if the Jaguars had a meeting with the officials before the game and just said, hey, watch it, because the Chiefs are going to try and push the envelope a little bit, and they are going to maybe hold, or they're going to have some double teams. Be on the lookout for that, because the officials seem to be on the lookout for it the other night. So I do wonder if that was just one of the things that the Jacksonville coaches told the officials before, hey, keep an eye on this, or if, particularly on those two blocks, that it was just the Jacksonville found a way that maybe they could bait either Cochran or the Chiefs in general into some holding calls. I don't think that any of the calls were honestly impacted the play that much, which makes the erasing of the 78 yards of field position an even bigger deal. Greg, your thoughts on my Spags not putting a spy on Lawrence after they got burned after the first time? They were a little slow to it, and Greg, and then I think even give credit to Trevor Lawrence when the Chiefs then kind of went intermittent spy the rest of the game. He did a really good job of recognition, knowing, when he had an opportunity to take off and where he could go. He still had a few more of those, breakaway scrambles for yards in the second half. And, and they had some moments when they were using Leo Chenal as a spy, and he performed really well. I mean, in those spots, Trevor Lawrence really did not try to challenge the Chiefs. But when they kind of had to make some adjustments because they were maybe trying to go after the quarterback a little bit more, or the run game a little bit more, they were trying to keep an eye on the deep ball and passing game, just making sure that they didn't fall for anything. They were trying to cover a lot. And I certainly got the sense that the Chiefs just felt like that they couldn't afford the spy most of the time. They couldn't afford that. So it certainly, I think, hurt them, probably throughout the game. They probably should have been deploying the spy more. It might have been a fairly conservative move, but I think it might have been a winning move. Now, you do that, you're also opening up yourself downfield in the passing game. So that's the only issue. But I would have considered it, Greg. I absolutely would have, because when they did spy Lawrence, it seemed like it worked. Um, Lateral, really interesting point here, because I will admit, in my notes for the podcast last night, I was going to introduce Nick as a Troy Aikman enthusiast for his title on the podcast last night, as far as our running joke, which I don't know if you all enjoy as much as I do, but I enjoy it, so I'm going to continue doing it for a long, long time. But I'm looking at my note right now. I had Troy Aikman enthusiast. And then when Nick told me that he was going to go to bed as soon as the podcast got published, I'm like, I'm not going to put him in that spot of having to, do a rant on Troy Aikman and just setting him up for it. So I'm going to just introduce him as sleeping enthusiast Nick Jacobs, because I knew that man wanted and needed a nap last night. So there's a little bit behind the scenes how the sausage gets made here. There's one word in there, Alan, that I am having trouble with, but blaming Chris Jones. Oh, but blaming Chris Jones for the loss, like Petra did today, was crazy, Matt. I understood Soren's points. I absolutely did. And I understand, if you're a Chiefs fan, you're going to say to it and say, hey, he's the highest paid guy in your defense and you need to make plays. I get it. I just don't think that Chris Jones was single-handedly responsible for that loss last night. he's still one of your best players. And once again, if anything, he contributed to Dexter for Trevor Lawrence landing on the ground in the first place. At some point, somebody else got to make a play too. And as many times as I've watched that play now, I keep coming back to, after Chris got the initial push, he then had a kind of a spin move, got turned around a little bit. So that was my question last night, was just how much of the eyes of the defensive line were in the backfield, knowing that Trevor Lawrence was on the ground, and that maybe all that they needed to do was to just burst through there and get a hand on him, and it would be a sack, and he'd be down on the ground. You're right. I have to go look it back and look. I think Chris Jones may have some incentives for sacks and pressure. So that's probably a pretty good motivation that, hey, if he thought he could get one, he'd go get one. But I mean, hey, the guy played a lot of snaps. He's had a very emotional couple of weeks. He was beating up and tearing apart double teams and triple teams all night long. So if there's one particular snap that wasn't his best, or he had other focuses, I'm just going to give that. This is one of those situations where I think I'm going to give Chris Jones the benefit of the doubt. I would like to hear more. If Chris Jones wants to take full responsibility for it on Thursday when we talk to him, more power to him. I don't know if he'll say that. I don't know if Spags will say that it was all his fault, or if it was a team effort, or it was on the coaches. Who knows? But I can't make the compelling case that the loss was entirely Chris Jones's fault. And I'm not even sure that Soren was trying to make that point, to his credit. I think that obviously he thought it was a big play, and that your highest paid player should be making plays in a situation like that. And maybe it didn't look good if he wasn't giving it his all. But again, depending on what his responsibilities were and what he was being asked to do, plenty of guys could have helped out on that play and gotten the win. And there was a few other plays throughout the game, obviously, that if your team makes, you don't even find yourself in that situation. And obviously the kick out of bounds, setting Jacksonville up to the 40 with no time off the clock, was another big one. That was another key critical moment in that game that didn't have anything to do with Chris Jones. Joe, special teams kickoffs and penalties giving Jags good field position several times. Any way to improve special team this year? I will be interested to see what Dave Spagnuolo. I'm tell you what, I'm on like about 2 hours of sleep after the game last night. So I think you're now seeing that's really kicking on the brain fog tonight. Dave Tobe, let's go with that guy. I'll be interested to see what he has to say on Thursday about what he thought about the penalties and where the responsibilities lie on special teams. I mean, there's no doubt the penalties were bad. Were they all legit? I thought a couple of those penalties were really soft. Is the decision about where the Chiefs are kicking kickoffs, is that entirely on Dave Tobe's decision making, or is that on Harrison Butker's execution? We need to get into that and discuss that, because the Chiefs have had a few that have been fairly close to the line, and I get it. That is a strategy that they are employing, and for most of the season it has worked pretty well. They are by and large, the Chiefs, keeping teams short of the average return line. So they're in theory doing a good job of doing exactly what they want to do, which is keeping teams short at the 30 and starting their first drive inside the 30. That's what they want to do. Now, they had a couple of bad returns that they got hit by Jaguars last night. And obviously the kickoff out of bounds, you're going to hang that on Butker. So is it a situation just in a case like that you don't want to put the ball as close to the sideline and the boundary to put you in a position like that? Do you still want to be aggressive at other points in the game? All valid questions, but I mean, I don't think that the Chiefs special teams have been terrible. this year, especially returns. I think they've been pretty good on that. And, I still feel like Brashard Smith is really close to breaking one, but Nico Remigio has had a couple of big returns. It might not be the fastest guy in the league. And I know, hey, you sometimes wish your guy could run the punter or the kicker as being like the last line of defense. But at the same time, Nico's been giving you strong, solid play. So I would just like to see what happens with a little bit more emotion and juice from Brashard Smith and what he can do in that backfield. So got two super chat questions that we're going to go to over here. So appreciate you. And hey, Seuss, I did not miss you this week. Got to you immediately. I'm proud of this, so I am not punishing you this week, Jesus. I am so glad. Can you rate Chris Jones's play? People are nervous, and I'll base this off of not looking at Pro Football Focus. I haven't looked at their grades in a couple of weeks. I know there were some games early in the season where it felt like that PFF was being pretty hard on Chris in their in-game grades in the first half. And then they were much stronger in the second half. I mean, I am going to just look at Chris's numbers and see kind of where he's at. I know he's got the 1 sack. Does he have 2? I'm not sure about that, but let's see. Yeah, he's got the 1 sack, 4 tackles. He has got 4, 5, 6 quarterback hits. I have to go over to Pro Football Focus later and see what they got him as some hurries. But right now, he's close to last year's numbers for quarterback hits. Sacks well behind, a little bit behind on tackles. You could certainly say that Chris's numbers right now are below what they were a year ago. Is it still early, small sample size? Absolutely. Do I think Chris Jones is playing badly? No. Do I think that Chris Jones is taking an inordinate number of plays off? No. I continue to see, once again, a guy that is getting a lot of double and triple teams. See a guy that's also in some games still beating them and still disrupting the backfield, making some plays. I thought he did that last night when the Jaguars were giving him a lot of attention. And once again, if you got a guy that's getting double and triple teams, you need your other guys on the outside. Your George Karlaftis, now that your Mike Dan is back, your Charles and Hughes, your Ashton Gelatis, you need those 4 guys to be making some plays. And I would have more concern at this point, for instance, about Charles and Hughes' play, a little bit about Mike Dana, just because he has just been getting back. And I tell you what, the other thing, and this goes back to our conversation about, Chris Jones and playing the defensive tackle position and having some help, and the Chiefs bringing in help. Once again, without Omar Norman Lott last night, you saw Mike Dana playing defensive tackle in some non-passing situations, non-third down situations. And that's scary. Derek Nottie is back. And if you do buy into Pro Football Focus, I think their numbers are going to tell you that Derek Nottie's having a terrible, terrible year. If that case, anything that Chris Jones is doing is being even more impressive if he's playing along somebody who's struggling that much. So is Chris Jones having the best year of his career? No, I can't say that. Has he been a B player? Yeah, I think I can't go any lower than that. I'm not going to say he's like a C or a C minus, C plus, anything like that. I think he has definitely been in the B plus category. Would you like to see more sacks from him? Sure, absolutely. Do I think you're going to see more sacks from him going forward? Yes, absolutely. I think it's going to be one of those things that kind of comes in bunches. So I have almost no concerns about Chris Jones's play, just in totality over these first 5 games. And if you're cherry picking off of one play, sometimes sometimes you're going to throw out a player's worst play and their best play. And if that was Chris Jones's worst play, so be it. but I'm not seeing that kind of performance down in and down out. I'm seeing Chris Jones playing his best down in and down out for the most part. And John, retired colonel, thank you very much for your service. Is there a meaning to Chiefs players wiggling 10 fingers after a big play? I don't know. I mean, now you mention it, I'm not sure that I have really noticed it. And other than it's just a celebration, I don't think it's a signal of any sort. It could be, but I would imagine it's just a little bit of a celebration that they're doing. I'll have to watch a little bit more closely for that, John, especially since you made the super chat. I'll have to ask some of the guys and see, what's up with that. If there's anything specific to it or it has any specific meaning, could very well. We'll find out. But I'm definitely going to flag that, John, as far as asking that question. So join us back here either on Thursday or Tuesday. I'll make sure to mention you and get that question in there. So if I find an answer, we'll get it for you, my friend. Appreciate the super chat from both you and Jesus. Very kind of you. And man, you know what? I mean, I know I'm still a little long-winded tonight, but we're doing better on time than Nick sometimes gives me credit for. So, and that is no knock on Nick. I love Nick. He is the best. He is always looking out for me. So. Let's see. I know we were right there. I think we had Joe with the special teams at the last question before we had the super chat. So now, where are we going? Oh, there we go. Alex, will the league ever address the underthrown pass PI? It's my least favorite penalty. It rewards poor quarterback play. I get you on that one, Alex, for sure. And I mean, there's the best way to avoid it. I mean, obviously, is that you have to get your head turned around as a defensive player. If you've got your head turned around and can make a compelling case that you're going for the football, you can avoid that flag. It's the problem is that if you don't turn around and you're trying to just simply face guard the receiver and you're going to try and defend them when their hands go up, you're asking for trouble. That strategy will work in some situations, and especially if you're hands off, if you're just trying to deny the pass going to the receiver. But in your situation, when it's an underthrown ball and the receiver's coming back for it, and you as a defender are face guarding and you're looking at the at the pass catcher's eyes and trying to wait for him to flash his hands at the last second, you're doomed oftentimes to just go ahead and make the early contact, especially since the offensive player is approaching you and coming back into you. Now that said, I tell you what, I mean, Tyquan Thornton might be one of the best underthrown pass wide receivers in the league because the dude is tall. He's going to be going up against players almost every single time that he's taller than. So I mean, you're probably going to benefit from that at some point if you're the Chiefs, and that Tyquan Thornton is probably going to draw some penalties on throws like that are underthrown to him because he does a really good job of coming back for the football. He does a good job of kind of flashing his hands late, giving away anything with his eyes. So I think he does a really good job of that. He's a really good just jump ball defender because of his height. He can elevate and get to a ball that the cornerbacks can't get to. Maybe some safeties aren't going to get to. So I think as a Chiefs fan, you might end up benefiting more from that than from some other teams. But it's a really difficult play to kind of police, Alex, because, it's that if you end up in a lot of situations where, especially on those kind of balls where it's an underthrown and the receiver's coming back for it, you don't often as a defender have the luxury or the time to turn around and go look for the football. And that's that puts you at a disadvantage. So what you're really the only thing you can really do in that situation is just simply defend the ball. You can't go for the interception. You can't do that. What you can only really do is just try to get your hands in front of the defenders. You want to make good contact. You want to, if you're wanting to get there when the ball gets there. It's difficult to do when you're not looking for the ball. But if you can get your head turned around, even better, just to get an eye on the football and where it's at. But sometimes it's poor quarterback play. Sometimes it's a little bit of design. Sometimes it's, the quarterback gets hit when he throws and it becomes an underthrown ball. But, Tyquan Thornton, I think, has maybe 3 of those catches this year on some underthrown footballs. Um, uh, Hollywood Brown's a little bit, good at that too. He's had, I think, 1 or 2 of those. So I think the Chiefs honestly have better receivers. Tyreek was really good at that, but I think that the Chiefs right now have more receivers who are good at coming back for underthrown passes than they've had in a while. So I think they're going to benefit more often than not on those plays. So, hey, if the NFL ever cleans it up, and I don't know what the really good answer for it is, other than, I mean, I think it's just coaching. You've really just got to coach your guys to make sure that they're not getting their hands in there early. And if they're face guarding and not looking back for the football, that they're just using their hands to shield the pass catcher and trying to make sure the ball doesn't get through without making any contact. Dylan, any edge rushers that you like and can possibly be a trade for the Chiefs? I mean, it's a really tough one, Dylan, because again, like we've talked about, the Chiefs don't have a ton of money under the cap space. If they wanted to get somebody that's affordable, they could, but it's going to have to be somebody that doesn't make a ton of money. So it's probably somebody still on a rookie contract. And if they're going to be gettable, they're probably also somebody who has underperformed to this point, and probably not somebody that is making is worth a lot of money or has had a lot of production. So that I think is the challenging thing about trying to make a deal. Now I'm looking at the deal that the Chargers made today with Baltimore to get. I'm going to always blow his name, Odafe Owe, because I mean, this would be a case of a player that I'm not sure the Chiefs could go get. He's in the fifth year club option of his rookie deal. Base salary is 9.57. You'll get a prorated version of that with the Chargers getting that deal, but that's still going to be more money than the Chiefs have under the franchise tag. So he's been good. I mean, had 10 sacks last year. That's the kind of player that, I mean, if you're the Chiefs, I think you would love to get. But the problem is that I think that's a player that by very definition is probably outside the Chiefs price range. I think that's a player, I mean, Brett Veach would probably have loved to try to get his hands on, but he doesn't have the salary cap room to go do it. And I've not seen for sure what the compensation was for that. I think it was just one pick going, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's just one pick going or was it a player for player trade? That was a player for player. So yeah, it was Alohi Gilman going to Baltimore. And they also swapped picks as well. So, it's kind of interesting swapping of picks, a 2027 and a 2026 fifths. We're going back and forth. So, hey, if the Chiefs had a player that somebody wants, great. I don't know if they would have been a good match in that spot, because if they could have come up with the player and been willing to trade with the draft pick positions to get the guy that they want and then find the money. But that's the thing. I mean, it's if you're Brett Veach, what can you afford right now? You can't afford much. You can only afford a player who is probably in the last year of his rookie contract. Doesn't have a 5th-year option necessarily, but probably at this point hasn't performed to his expectations. Because again, if you're a team that's got a player that's in the last year of his rookie contract and is a potential 10 sack a year player, you're probably wanting at least a 3rd-round pick for that, because that's what you can probably get, in compensation formula for that player. And I mean, unless you're going to be in a deficit situation where you think you're going to be signing a lot of free agents and therefore you're not going to be getting any picks back, but it's going to be the right player. And I have a really hard time, Dylan, really identifying that. I think that you're maybe literally talking about maybe 3 guys around the league that might really fit into that category. Do I think that the Chiefs are looking for an edge rusher? Yes. I think they're looking for a defensive tackle as well. I think they're looking at the running back market as well. I don't know that they can necessarily meet all 3 of those needs without necessarily moving a player. And again, I mean, the Chiefs don't necessarily have players with a lot of salary on it that they can move. And no, everybody do not think that you can trade Jawan Taylor for an affordable, productive edge rusher. That's not going to happen. But I will give it some thought, Dylan. If I can come up with it, and I'll talk to Nick too, because he may have some ideas on his mind. There's anybody else that jumps out to me that could be a candidate, but I think once again, I mean, I think you're talking about what's in the Chiefs price range. It's probably a 4th-year draft pick that's in the last year of their deal that's just underperformed to this point, or you feel like that could really fit into your system, or you feel is due to really break out this year. Bumpa, if the Chiefs could go back in time, the Chiefs aren't doing that Chris Jones extension right. Not for $30 million, fell off 2 years into it. I mean, you got a Super Bowl out of it. I mean, and certainly the 2023 deal and everything was part of that, as far as really trying to get Chris Jones done. I don't know if you make it to the Super Bowl last year without Chris Jones. If you make it to the Super Bowl, Chris, this year, I mean, Chris Jones is going to be a huge part of it. And it is, I think it is a legitimate conversation, Bumpa, because yes, the Chiefs did something that they don't normally do, which is committing a bunch of money to a player into their 30s. But again, I just don't know that the Chiefs seriously had any serious options. Because if you don't sign Chris Jones, who is that guy for you? Who is that interior player that, takes care of business? Well, the last couple of years, you didn't have that. You drafted Omar Norman-Lott this year. So on one hand, you probably would have had to draft players in each of the last 2 years to take a shot at trying to bulk up that defensive tackle room. But the Chiefs just haven't, spent until the Omar Norman-Lott pick. They had not spent a lot of investment on the interior defensive line. I mean, last one they really drafted was Keandre Coburn, and that situation did not work out. Don't know if it was just big personality-wise did not work in Kansas City, scheme-wise. There was something, because the guy's still kicking around the NFL and still, being somewhat productive, not necessarily a super great player, but he's being productive. So I don't know what didn't work out there. If it was just personality, it was just scheme, maybe a combination of both. But you didn't have an option. Were there other players out there that you could have signed out the free agent market? Quite possibly, but they would have been nowhere near as good as Chris Jones, and you still would have had to pay a good amount of money for them. So I still don't know that there was a really good solution for the Chiefs other than signing Chris Jones. It just seemed like that was what they had to do, and they kind of backed themselves into a corner. I mean, let's face it. I mean, it's twofold. I mean, one, they did not invest the resources either as draft picks or free agency in trying to find players that they could come in and create what they need to replace Chris Jones. So it's both sides of it. It's scouting and it's coaching. They haven't found that solution and found that answer. So But and that's why I still come back to it. I do not know what your answer was other than bringing back Chris Jones, because I just don't know what your defense would look like and could look like without him in the middle there. I know, like I was talking to Soren today about that same conversation, and he's like, "Hey, you could have gotten 3 or 4 guys for what you got for Chris Jones." Yeah, but if the guy you get to replace Chris Jones at defensive tackle is half as good as he is, that doesn't. I mean, I don't know if that's good enough. I really, I don't believe it's good enough. And hey, we're going to see what kind of erosion does Chris Jones. If Chris Jones falls off a cliff and just becomes an unproductive player in the next 12 months, then it's going to look like a really bad deal. I still don't think that's the case. I still think that Chris Jones has some good football in him, though. Perry, I know the kick out of bounds is dumb, but in all reality, if it was a touchback, the ball is at the 35. Is the Butker blame warranted? I say no. And that's, I think, also a legitimate question, Perry, because I haven't gone through to see where Baltimore's starting field position was on kickoffs last night, but I think it was pretty good. I mean, it might have been out to the 40, because I know they had a return or two that took them out beyond the 40. They had one that I think really, stuffed them deep, and I think there was a couple that were short of the 30. So maybe the Chiefs came out a little bit better than you think. And hey, the touchback gets really wacky. Yes, if you kick it out of the end zone, then yeah, it's going to be at the 35. If you bounce it into the end zone from the landing zone, you can get it to the 20. And that's what, honestly, the Chiefs were wanting to do one of two things there. They wanted to put the ball on the ground and either get the ball into the end zone for the touchback at the 20, or get Baltimore to start their Baltimore to get Jacksonville to start their return from a cold start to, just being standing still. The one thing you don't want, and the Chiefs have honestly found themselves in this position a few times too, is that you really don't want the kickoff and have the return guy catch the ball at full speed running forward. That's the last thing that you want. And the Chiefs have had a few times where they've gotten into that spot. Now, they've defended really well. They generally have been able to stop guys. So I give them credit for being able to achieve what they want to do, but they have played with fire with those kicks. And Harrison has been a little predictable as far as where he's putting the football. And so there was a little bit of risk that Jacksonville took with letting that ball hit and to see if it was going to go out of bounds. I mean, you never know which way a football is going to bounce. They took a little bit of a gamble. Gamble paid off. But hey, did it get them? How much more field position did it get them? Did it get them 5 extra yards, 10, 15? I mean, I think you would reasonably say on average that it putting it out of bounds was 10 extra yards. Well, 10 extra yards at the end of the game would have been pretty key, because if on that last play, there's no way that Trevor Lawrence is going 10 more yards to get into the end zone. So if they'd started that drive 10 yards further back, might have been all the difference in the world as far as, them being able to get that ball into the end zone. John in Idaho, what was the reason Omar Norman Lott not playing? Norman Lott suffered a shoulder injury in practice on Friday. He did not practice on Saturday, which is why they ended up listing him as questionable. It's at least encouraging to me that he was listed as questionable, not doubtful or out, suggesting that it's not necessarily a serious shoulder injury. I'm also told that it occurred during practice on Thursday, and he did not initially leave practice. He was still a full participant on Friday, rather. So he injured it on Friday. He finished practice on Friday. Wasn't until after practice that he went to the trainers, reported the injury. Now, then again, Omar Norman Lott's got a little history of that. He he wants to play through injuries. He's a tough dude. So that could be a concern. I mean, you'll like to see that, but The fact that he was listed as questionable, they didn't just immediately rule him out or list him as doubtful, at least gives me a little bit of optimism that this is not going to be a long-term thing. Doesn't necessarily sound like it's a Xavier Worthy issue. Your only really concern to me is that if there's any ligament involvement or labrum involvement, then that's what ends up being a bigger deal than it looks like right now. But at least the way that the Chiefs are handling it, it does not sound like it's a significant issue. So let's hope that Omar Norman-Lott gets back out there. But yeah, he was injured in practice on Friday, finished practice on Friday, but sat out on Saturday and that's why he was questionable. Brian, is the AFC South the dirtiest division in the league? I don't know. I mean, every team's probably got their guy that pushes the boundaries a little bit. I haven't seen enough, Brian, to say that it's the AFC South. So, and honestly, I mean, compared to some of the games that the Chiefs have had with the Jaguars over the past, that was not as chippy last night as some others have been. So I'm willing to give it at least a pass for this year. Let's see what happens going forward. It's too early to say, Brian. I need more data on that for this year. Nikki, good to see you. Hope the car is doing better. Herbert and Trevor both have best games ever. Thought defense was supposed to be the Chiefs defense was supposed to be really good. I mean, Herbert had a really good game, and I'm still taking that week one game and kind of just throwing it out. Weird things happen in international games. The Chiefs were at a real disadvantage. They had a lot of weird stuff going on. I would rather see what happens the second time around between these two teams in Arrowhead, and if Justin Herbert backs that up. Trevor, I don't know if it was his best game ever. I mean, I get that he made some clutch plays and the Jaguars were really happy with him. Liam Cohen hasn't seen him play, I guess, for the last 5 years. So maybe he thought it was his best game as under him as a Jaguar, but Trevor's had some good games under Doug Peterson, and that's the thing to me, and why I'm just not enamored with the Jaguars offense right now and what Liam Cohen is doing, is that I think that Doug Peterson found a way to get the most out of Trevor Lawrence. And I just don't see Liam Cohen doing the same things. I think he's putting him in a different offense, different system, asking him to do different things. And I think that's kind of crazy. I mean, if anything, if you're going to have Trevor Lawrence as your quarterback, you should be running an offense that Trevor Lawrence is comfortable with. And that offense was what Doug Peterson was doing. So I still don't really understand that. I mean, and you look at the numbers, that was not a very good performance from Trevor Lawrence. I mean, it was pretty pedestrian. So I can't really hang that loss last night, Nikki, on the Chiefs defense. I mean, they've, for the most part, stopped the run game, especially with Etienne. Their only real problem was stopping Lawrence in the scrambling game, and that was a career high, I believe, for Trevor Lawrence, scrambling. Passing yards, not a career high. He obviously had the turnover. And doing what he did at the goal line, jumping over, and turning over the football and the fumble, not a great move either. And almost killed him too with some really bad penalties, taking delay of game penalties on that final drive. Those are just sloppy mistakes. So I think Trevor has played a lot better games under Doug Peterson, but I still think that, I mean, Trevor Lawrence is a game manager at best. I'm not trying to knock the dude or anything, but I mean, would he be one of my top 15 quarterbacks in the NFL? No, I don't think I would have him there. I mean, maybe a couple of notches below that, and that's fine, but I don't think Trevor Lawrence is the guy who's going to put you on his shoulders and take you to win games. Last night was a little bit of an aberration, and I think he had a lot of help in getting that win last night. So I'm willing to give the Chiefs defense a little bit of a pass because once again, you look at the numbers of what they allowed on the ground, you look at what the numbers that they allowed through the air. Really, your only concern to me, defensively, if you're the Chiefs, is that you just gave up too many yards to the quarterback scrambling. Penalties were a little bit of a problem too. Not as much on the defensive side, although they had a couple of penalties that hurt them, especially some of those pass interference penalties. But I don't think that was anything that Trevor did. So I thought they handled Trevor and Etienne out of the backfield pretty well. Doctor Who, is the celebration is Taylor Swift showing off her rings? I got nothing for you on that, Doctor Who. I'll be honest. I mean, I'm a little familiar with what's going on with Taylor and the new album and anything else, but you start talking about celebration and rings, I got nothing for you. So I guess go watch Graham Norton show over in the UK, and that'll tell you all you need to know. Brian, I am not older than a boomer. I may seem like a boomer. I am Gen X all the way and proud. Nikki, do you think they rested Omar Norman Lott because they thought they had this one in the bag? I doubt it. I think there was probably some legitimate concern with his shoulder, just not wanting to put him at risk. I thought, once again, I mean, the only thing that I thought was really disappointing about the Chiefs and how they managed this game without Omar Norman Lott, activated Marlon Tuipulotu from the practice squad. And I think I got this. Thought I had the snap counts here. Apparently, I don't have them handy. But Marlon Tuipulotu really didn't play much, if at all. I'm going to get my refresh version. I know Nick put those out earlier, but I don't have his handy quite yet. So let me see. But this happened in week 1 too, when they activated Norman Tuipulotu to Marlon. And yeah, you can tell that 2 hours of sleep is really affecting my being able to get people's names out tonight. I feel terrible about that. Tuipulotu played 6 snaps last night, so not significant. He played, I think, about the same, maybe a bit fewer snaps in week 1 when he was in there for Omar Norman Lott, when he was still out with the ankle injury. And the result was that the Chiefs just, like I said, they played a little bit more Mike Dana in defensive tackle. I wasn't a big fan of that. I would still have preferred to probably see a little bit more of Marlon Tuipulotu. But no, I think it was certainly a precaution that they just simply did not want him to aggravate that shoulder injury any worse. Round Rock. Did you see the broadcast when they showed Chris Jones standing over sitting Amini Hugh holding a Microsoft Surface, in his face, and Amini Hugh was ignoring him? Chris didn't look happy. I mean, I will say this about all sideline interactions. Never read too much into them. Sometimes they might tell you something you can't see enough. The television cameras never show you enough to truly understand what you're seeing on the sideline. So I hate doing that. I hate, getting into the logistics of what's a sideline interaction, because they don't tell the whole story. If it was that Chris was upset with Charles about something, we'll figure it out eventually. But I will say that's one of my things that is my pet peeve, and that's no offense, Round Rock, because you're not. I'm not blaming you for being at the forefront of this one. TV's often at the forefront of this one. You see a snippet of the interaction. For all we know, Chris could have been showing him the Microsoft Surface, and as soon as the camera cut away, Chris could have just been laughing his butt off. You never know. You just don't see the entire interaction. So I don't know if there's any upset, any dissension. I mean, like I said, usually things like that, cream rises to the top. We'll figure it out eventually. Oh, a little bit late on this one, Dog Petter. I apologize. I did not see this one pop up on the super chat, but appreciate it. Do you think the Chiefs would look at Justice Hill? Very intriguing, yes, since the Ravens are slowly playing themselves out of the playoff race. I mean, I know the Ravens are just confident enough that I'm sure they still consider themselves in the playoff race. Justice Hill would be a really interesting piece. So I'm looking him up. He has got 2 more years on his contract this year and next. Very affordable cap hits. If I'm the Chiefs, am I interested? Yeah, I would be interested. Yeah, I mean, I'd be seriously interested. What would it cost to get him? Gosh, I would assume somewhere between a third and a fifth round pick. If you get a fifth for Justice Hill, I would probably do that in a heartbeat. I might even do it for a fourth. That is the kind of dude and has the kind of juice that this team needs. So very affordable. I can also understand because he's under control for 2026 as well at a very affordable cap hit, that if you're Baltimore and you certainly think that this is an aberration and that you're going to be competing next year, Hill's not a guy that you want to let go of. And he is 28 this year. He's going to be 29 next year. So he is a candidate for hitting the wall here pretty soon. But from what I've seen of Justice Hill, I think he still has plenty of juice left. I would be very intrigued. That's a really good suggestion to me, Dog Petter. If you can make the draft pick cost, he would fit under the salary cap for the Chiefs and what they've got left. So I would not have any problems with that. Yeah, that's unless somebody else is going to come up with a better idea. I mean, I know Justice Hill has some flags, and you might want to be somewhat concerned about that. But it seems like he's been a really good teammate in Baltimore. So that is the kind of guy that would really help out the Chiefs and be somebody that they could use. Timmy T 4KC. What about Sheldon Rankins? $4.5 million salary. I mean, you're reaching a point where the prorated version of that for Sheldon Rankins would be available to. I mean, that's something that you could afford. And I know I clearly have looked at his contract before because it's automatically popping up. And because he's gosh, and his deal really is even better than that because he's got a $2.8 million cap hit for this year, but some of that was a prorated signing bonus. There's a per game roster bonus in there. Base salary is only 1.5. He would certainly fit in with what the Chiefs could afford. And been productive enough. Yeah. I mean, that's another player. I mean, 31 years old, so and not signed up long term. So if you're the Texans, I mean, that's a rent a player for sure. And once again, it just comes down to, do the Texans consider themselves out of the playoff race? Might need we wait a few more weeks. Might need to be rooting for the Texans to lose a few more games so that he becomes available. But yeah, once again, I mean, that would not be a bad choice for me because that is a position of need for the Chiefs. Absolutely. So I cannot argue with either one of those two suggestions, guys. Maybe we need to get you on Brett Veach's staff. I think we're actually getting here pretty close to the end, folks. So I'll put up a last call if anybody else has any more questions. Mitchell, when is it time to admit that this defense just doesn't have any good players? What else could it be? I mean, again, I don't know about. I'm ready to hit a panic button on this, Mitchell. The defense has played, I think, at least 3 really good games. I'm throwing out the Chargers game because I think that there was just a lot of nonsense involved in that game and going overseas, and you can really throw out the records when you go overseas. Against Jacksonville, probably their worst performance of the year, honestly. But again, 24 points. I mean, that's winnable. I mean, and if you're the Chiefs, you should win that game. Again, you could absolutely argue that the pick six absolutely cost the Chiefs this game, because otherwise, the Chiefs are knocking on the door. They should get a touchdown there, even if it's a field goal. That's a 10-point swing. I think it was more like a 14-point swing. So, if you don't throw that interception, the Chiefs win this game comfortably, and the defense has done its job. So I'm not ready to panic yet. I know that there are elements of this defense that people are frustrated with right now. That there have been moments that Shamari Connor has had some rough moments. I think he's also had some really good moments. Um, Trent McDuffie's having a good year. I think Jalen Watson, you know, even with the penalty that he had the other night, which again, I don't think that one penalty was that bad. I think it was he slipped on the turf, and that's going to happen. I mean, I can't put that penalty on him. I think Jalen Watson has played the best football of his career. You are still looking at the possibility that you're likely going to have Najee Johnson and Christian Fulton back. So you're going to be bolstering that cornerback group even further. I mean, you might even have some tough decisions about who you're going to keep around in that cornerback group. I think the safety group is only going to continue to get better. It is young. I don't think the Chiefs are necessarily looking for a veteran to come in. They've got Mike Edwards on the practice squad, who is kind of their veteran leader that can help out this team. If you get some injuries down the road, Mike Edwards could absolutely help you out a little bit. So I don't know. Again, I mean, you would like to have more production out of the pass rush. And if you could get somebody to come in and help you with that, honestly, if it was an interior player too, I think that would help just as much as an exterior player, as an edge player. So I don't think you need any help at linebacker. I think you got what you need there. You've got some good players, and you got some good young players, so that in the second half of the season, Jeff Boss, I think, can step up and be able to give you some good snaps. I don't think this is a bad defense, and you're able to do things a lot of pretty complicated things because you've got continuity. You got Nick Bolton to be able to handle that for you. Spags is the best in the business, so I'm still bullish on this defense. I'm not ready to admit that they just don't have enough good players. I think that they do have good players. The only thing that could really factor up with this and foul it up is if George Karlaftis doesn't develop and take that next step that you're hoping for, so that he's a productive pass rusher in the next few years under that new contract. You're hoping that Chris Jones doesn't fall off the face of the earth at age 32, and that he can still give you some good playing time over the next couple of years. I don't know what's going to happen with Trent McDuffie. You could certainly have team control for him for a few more years at somewhat affordable rates between the fifth-year option and a franchise tag. I mean, there's a lot of good possibilities there. I don't necessarily feel like that there's a big-time weakness on this Chiefs defense. I get that there are some areas of the secondary that you have to scheme around a little bit. That's the one thing. And the Chiefs, for better or for worse, are much more confident in elements of the secondary than we are. So, I mean, like, Steve Spagnuolo is much higher on Shamari Connor than I know Chiefs fans are on Shamari Connor. And is he right? Well, I mean, Steve Spagnuolo is usually right. So I'm banking on him probably being right. But again, have they really figured out what they want to do, what their best rotations are? Though there could still be some little wrinkles that they just need to tighten up, and then you're going to feel a lot better about that. I still think this is a good defense. Is it a top 3 defense? Maybe it's not going to be, but if this offense comes along and plays what it is, and if you've got a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense, you're going to be one of the better teams in the NFL. So there's a long, long way to go. Alex, about Cam Jordan. Has there been, I know he comes up a lot in some conversations. It's just, I just don't know if it's ever entirely clear that he wants to leave New Orleans. I mean, maybe he does, maybe he would for a winner, but it just seems like that's just, and he's got a friendly contract now. The Saints would have to take a hit, and man, they Howie Roseman that one up. They've got him taking salary cap hits out to age 40 and 2029. But hey, he's got a tradable contract, $1.25 million base. Doesn't look like there's any per game issues or salaries. He's got some playing time and sacks incentives. So tradable contract, yes. Productive this year, yes. Would tick all the boxes. Once again, I guess it just comes down to the two questions there, which is, will the Saints wave the right flag and admit they're out of the playoff race? And two, does Cam Jordan want to move on, or does he want to finish his career in New Orleans? He seems like a guy who might want to finish his career in New Orleans. So I'll be interested if he does become available, because he's a special player and a great teammate. So he would be interesting. Alex, why are we not seeing any production out of the backup tight ends? I am fascinated in that as well. If for no other reason, Alex, then part of the problem is that we're just not seeing a backup tight end outside of Noah Gray at all. Robert Tonyan is getting no work for the most part. And that surprises me, because he was just so good in training camp. And I'm just not sure why, other than the fact that they just feel that at his age that they want to space him out a little bit and want to save his best for the end of the season when they may need it. And in the postseason, if they just feel like he just only has so many snaps in him. But I still feel like this is a guy that if you can get him 10 to 15 snaps a game, and it means 10 to 15 fewer snaps a game for Travis, I know it's not what Travis wants necessarily, but if you could find a way to keep both those guys fresh so that you've got Travis and Tonyan playing their best football in December, July, and February, I mean, that seems like it should be your plan. So Brian, Justin Reed and Tariq Woolen, I'm gonna have to say no on that one. Love Justin Reed, but with the contract he signed, it's difficult that would be very difficult for the Saints to get out of. It would be a big cap hit for him. They would really like to and need to be keeping him for another year at least, be able to get out from under, because I think next year, if they traded him right now, I think he's going to cost more on next year's cap than they would save. So he would be a drain. And for a Saints team that's continually trying to find coins under the sofa cushions for the salary cap, I just don't think that's going to cut it. Now Tariq Woolen's contract, when did he sign that? I guess I thought he had signed an extension. I didn't realize he was still on his rookie contract. I think my only really concern there is that it's twofold. I mean, this year, even with the prorated version, his base salary is $5.3 million. That would be pretty close to tapping out what the Chiefs have as far as cap space is available. They'd have to probably make some maneuvers there to make that work. I also think the Seahawks would command a pretty high cost. I think they'd want at least a third-round pick, maybe more for him. So worth exploring. I would kick the tires on it. My only hesitation on that one, Brian, would just be that the cost for Woolen would just be too much from a draft pick standpoint. Nikki, do you think they rested? I think I already answered that one, Nick. I don't know how I skipped all the way to that one. I feel bad. I don't know what I did there, but hey, we did talk about it. So hopefully you got your answer earlier. And unless there's any last newcomers, I think we got our last question here from AZ Chief. And I do need to know if AZ Chief, if you're the guy that I met down in the Super Bowl, one of the AZ Chiefs at the watch party, let me know, because every time I see your username, I always think, hey, wait a minute, is that the guy I talked to in at the Phoenix Super Bowl and came out to the watch party on Saturday and met everybody? It was a lot of a lot of fun time out there. Are you seeing? Oh, I wish you wish. Well, I still think of the watch party, and I wish I could remember the name of the club that is out there. But it was I'll tell you what. I mean, of all the Chiefs places that I've been, that's one of the best out there. The Chiefs West out there in Arizona. But are you seeing Jones being effective playing off the edge and passing down? Seems to have lost some of his bend. I think that is definitely a distinct possibility. It does feel to me that Chris's pass rush off the edge is a little bit more based on power than getting around the outside. That was really interesting, just how excited Chris was. I think it was after the Giants game, that he got a sack out of being from the three tech on the inside, and talked about the fact that, I mean, he knew how many games it had been since the last time that he had a sack from the interior at the three tech spot, which has always been his bread and butter. I mean, he's considered to be one of the best three techs in the league. And now that is usually where teams double and triple team him the most, when he's lined up inside. But it's entirely possible. I mean, that's one of the things that goes, AZ Chief, when you do get older. And Chris, I think, is absolutely relying a bit more on power at this point in his age than his bend. So is it a limitation for him? Probably. Is he offsetting that with his experience and knowledge, kind of the same way that Travis has been able to extend his career with just his knowledge of the game and his knowledge of the opposition and his film work? Yeah, I mean, I think that's where the trade-off is that you hope for. So I think you got a legitimate point. I mean, and that may be one of the reasons why maybe Chris has just not been as effective as a outside rusher. And it is interesting. It seems like, at least it hasn't been steadily, but it does seem like there's even been a few times this year where Chris has been lining up on the inside on third downs and in some passing downs, where in the past he would always be lined up on the edge. And Brenda with another super chat. Thank you very much, Brenda. And you've been a longtime member too. I always appreciate that, Brenda. Do you think they're limiting some snaps as rookies for later in the year? 100%. And now some of it, I don't know, is necessarily limiting the snaps as much as it is they're continuing to just do the Andy Reid philosophy of don't put guys into positions where they're not ready to succeed. For instance, with Brashard Smith, they're giving Brashard Smith a couple of packages each week, and that's what he's going to run. They haven't had an injury situation of any sort where they would have the need to just plug him in for a more extended workload. But right now, for Brashard, they're giving him a set number of packages. That's what he's going to work on that week. And they're building that portfolio a little bit more. So, hey, they probably had a package for him last week. This week, they probably had the same package, but added a bit more. They're going to continue to do that. So they're going to continue for guys like that, like Brashard Smith. They're just going to give him a little bit more on offense responsibility-wise each week. Will he get to a point this year where the entire playbook is at his option? I don't know. Obviously, right now they're focusing a lot on the play option part of the running back package. I would love to see him still get to a point where they're handing him the ball in the backfield and letting him maybe run some outside zone. I think he'd be really effective at that, even if his patience is still a little bit in development, but I would love to see it. Jalen Royals, with the injury too, slowed him down a little bit. So his package load is a little bit lighter, on even more so than Brashard Smith's. You don't see that as much with, I think Omar Norman Lott and Ashton Gelati. Gelati seems to be picking up things really quickly. So I don't think there's a whole lot of restrictions on how much that they're going to get him out there. Same to a certain degree with Omar Norman Lott. The injuries for Omar Norman Lott have maybe slowed him down a little bit. So there's probably a few things that they're not going to ask him to do. His workload is probably not as wide as Gelati's at this point. Obviously, Josh Simmons has got the full workload. I mean, he's starting left tackle, first round draft pick. That's the guy that absolutely has got the full possession of the board there. And Noah Williams and Jeff Bossa both. Bossa probably a little bit further behind than everybody else. He's, once again, kind of a tweener. What they're asking him to do at this level as a linebacker role is a little bit different than what he played in college. So I think there's a little bit more adjustment there. With Noah Williams, I mean, the Chiefs absolutely love what they have seen, but again, they want to make sure that they are putting him in position to succeed. They don't want to put Noah Williams in a spot where they feel like he's going to get burned and that he's facing up some receivers that might be challenging to him, or having to cover them in space that he's not comfortable with. They love his size, and obviously he's a talented receiver at covering guys downfield. So anytime that they can put him in a spot like that where they feel like that he's going to be guarding a bigger receiver, somebody downfield, they'll put him in those spots. So his workload is still in progress. I think we're still a ways before you see Noah Williams, unless there are injuries that force him into it, that you just all of a sudden see him out there for 80% of the snaps. I think it's further along than that. But to your point, Brenda, I mean, by the end of the season, you might see some of these guys, challenging for some starting positions or challenging for more heavy workload, because if they can come in December and January and give you productive snaps to be fresh legs and take a little bit of the load off of the other guys and the starters, that's how Andy Reid wants to work these guys in. So I don't think there's any doubt. Outside of Josh Simmons, for the most part, they're limiting the workload of all of this year's rookie class and just slowly putting them into positions that they're ready for. And I did see there was a couple of questions I kind of skipped. Sorry about that. Jimmy's, are you feeling about Kingsley's development so far? I'm starting to see him make some plays here and there. It looks like progress with him and Josh. I mean, there's two parts of it to me. I mean, what are the coaches saying? And coaches right now are speaking very highly of Kingsley. Is he still making some mistakes? Yeah, there's bound to be some. I think there's been fewer mistakes week to week. I think he's looked stronger and more comfortable week to week. The coaches have been speaking more glowingly about him week to week. So, yeah, I mean, I do think that there's been some progress there. Progress, too, with the communication between him and Josh. There's still more that needs to be done. There's a few things that they're probably missing out on, and it's just, but that will come with time. That comes with experience of having a bunch of guys that you play next to and everything. So it will come in time. And I think right now with Kingsley, I think the arrow is at least pointed up and that you're feeling pretty good about which direction he's going. And Dylan, I missed yours too. Is there genuine discussions in the Chiefs office about trading for Breece Hall, or is that just media hype? I hope you get some rest. Your eyes are making me tired. I do look a little tired tonight, Dylan. I apologize. I probably am making people tired. Yeah, I can tell you right now, I'm going to go have my my bundt cake and probably go to bed after that. So thank you. My impression is that the Chiefs are certainly considering any and all options. But again, any player that you're talking about, it comes down to the resources. Breece Hall still on a rookie contract. You could actually, for the Chiefs, you could afford that. But again, Breece Hall, my understanding is the Jets would want a third plus. A third round pick might get the ball started, but it won't be the end of the discussion. Might even require a second round pick instead of a third. And then that might be plus. So then you're talking like maybe a day 3 pick. He would not be inexpensive. There's going to be a lot of suitors. So there would be, I think, reasonable demand. Again, if the Jets let Breece Hall go through free agency, they know that they're comfortably getting probably a third round pick and compensation pick back for him. So that's the catch, is just that what the Jets would expect in compensation, I think, would be the real challenge. And then again, I mean, if you're the Chiefs, do you want to give up a second or a third round pick, or a third round and a fifth round pick for a guy that you don't have a long-term deal with, and beyond this season? And that's a lot to give up for essentially a rental player. So and the Chiefs, are they in position to give Breece Hall a long-term contract when he gets here? Not convinced about that. So yeah, I think there's just some logistics. Are the Chiefs interested? They'd be crazy not to. I just don't see that it's going to be a logical fit between what the Jets would want, the player would want, and the Chiefs are willing to afford and to spend. Alicia, thank you for the birthday wishes. There is nothing I would rather do than to spend my time with all of you. I would rather spend time with all of you here on the Chiefs Digest live Q&A than with the finest people in Chiefs Kingdom. And I hope somebody understands that reference from Roxanne with Steve Martin. Brenda, thank you. Those are cakes. Okay, I was thinking they were donuts earlier when those emojis got dropped, because I'm fine either way, but I do greatly appreciate the cakes. Thank you very much. And yeah, like I said earlier, Brad, member for 20 months, Brenda, you are one of our long-term members, and greatly appreciate that. You are the best. And Joe, you get the final word with the last happy birthday message and lots of cake slices. So I can't fight about that. Can't argue about that. We have had, I say we, it's me. I have had very intermittent appearances on the Thursday night Q&A. We're still kind of working out the bugs on that. I actually have a couple of people who have expressed interest in coming in and answering some of your questions. So I definitely want to get it done. I'm hoping to have one this Thursday. I do not know if I will have a guest yet for sure. The guests that I have lined up are probably further down the line. But if I can get somebody to come in here and join me and help out, answer some of your questions, I would love to. So hopefully we will see you Thursday night for a Q&A. You will get a notification either way if we are going to be able to get that one out. And last thought, go listen to 41 is the mic. With the podcast came out this morning after the game last night, so we're breaking everything down. Anything we did not discuss tonight, you will certainly find, and you will get all of Nick's hot rants and everything else. And like I said, we'll wait till the final. You got to listen all the way to the end, because I thought we were done, and it was just like, hey, Nick, any final thoughts? And he had like 6 more minutes of great materials and rants. So make sure you listen to all the way to the end. And obviously we will be back in your stream after the Sunday night football game against the Lions at Arrowhead on Sunday in week 6. Everybody, thank you so much. Appreciate the very kind birthday wishes. Great spending my birthday night here with all of you. Wish you the